Alright, love, yes, here we are once again. Kicking off the season in fine style. I've obviously made the fatal error in making the trailer. I've made the game look a lot more fast paced and exciting than it actually is. So no doubt what views I've got may well drop off after this sort of long-winded monstrosity, but it's kind of the nature of the game. That it's quite involved, so I'll try my best to explain it as we go along. Hopefully it won't be quite as boring as the video length may suggest. As I've recorded a few in a batch, the next couple seem to be a little bit shorter, so that's stick with it. Good times ahead. But yes, with setup, obviously before you kick off, obviously I lost the toss as I didn't get to choose, so it's fair play. I always like kicking off in the first half anyway. But as you set up, I believe the rules were you've got to have at least 3 on your line of scrimmage, as you can see with the orcs there. At most 2 in the wide areas. I think that's the only minimum, or maximum 2. Sorry, in the wide areas. And then whoever's kicking, select roughly where you want it to go. There's all kinds of scatter tables and everything, and obviously there's a kick-off table to roll on. The game rolls 2 dice and lets you know what happens. In this case, the result was cheering fans, and then obviously there's a second dice roll, which is supplemented by your cheerleaders and your team's fame and all that kind of thing. And whoever comes out highest gets an extra re-roll. Obviously, as the game's dice-based, re-rolls can be quite important, as you will see. Obviously this is the orcs go, so this is nothing to do with me. I've left it on this kind of alternate camera, so you've got a bit more of a difference between the two. Otherwise it's just kind of a static overhead camera, so you can kind of see what they're getting up to, and it makes the two sides look different. But as is kind of standard with orcs, they're pocketing up. I suppose that's standard with most teams, to be honest. You've got to protect the ball carrier, but obviously that fella, so this is has failed in his attempt to block, and this is obviously a block sort of tutorial. You roll the dice, and then obviously if you're stronger than the other guy, you get to roll more dice, as is there. I think you'll see it coming back the other way, and you get to choose. If you're rolling more than 1 dice, you get to pick the result, obviously the one closest to what you would like. The little arrows are pushbacks, so it's just no damage, but you just shove the guy back a square. I'm trying to think what actually happens with these. Obviously, as I'm playing this, I'm trying to remember what's what. I think this is pushbacks. Yeah, so it's a block. So I take the arrow, and then you choose which of there's normally 3 squares you choose to push him back into, and then obviously if there's anyone else that can hit, he can then hit, and he gets assists from anyone stood close by. I realise this is going to be a absolute butt ton of rules all at once. I'll try and space it out as much as possible so it can sink in. But the basics of the game is quite simple, really. Basically, the more that you can make your opponent roll some dice, the bigger chance you've got of them fucking it up and failing. If you don't put anyone on them, like all those guys running around in the backfield. Oh, hang on, here we go. Yeah, you've got a re-roll choice here. Obviously the one on the left means that we both fall over, the one on the right means that I fall over on my own. So you can use a team re-roll to, you can only use 1 per turn. So ultimately that's paid off, because it means I can re-roll it and I've knocked the fella on his arse. So that's obviously beneficial. The more you can keep the other team horizontal, the better. So getting this onto their goal. He's dodged out of the way. Standing up is always advisable, obviously, if you've been knocked on your arse. Stand everyone back up again. As you'll see, it's something that I forget on a semi-regular basis. So yeah, obviously moving around, every character has a set move distance. Orcs aren't as quick. I believe the average is sort of about 4 or 5. Skaven, my team, they're sort of 7 and up, really. So you can see they're a lot lighter on their feet, but they're not as tough. So it's kind of the payoff, or the trade-off rather, that you take. So you kind of have to tailor your teams to your own race's kind of benefits. Obviously, see, as covered by the turnover there, the orc tried to dodge, tried to get out of every opposition player has sort of the 9 squares around him. They're referred to as a tackle zone. If I remember, I'm just trying. All this is coming off the top of my head from playing this in practice and from playing the board game about 10 years ago. So forgive me if it's a bit wonky. This is kind of how I understand it to be. Pretty sure that's not any different. Yeah, you've got the tackle zone around, and obviously entering it is fine. But if you're leaving it, you have to dodge, and dodge is based on your how agile you are. So obviously Skaven slightly more agile than orcs generally, so it's not too bad. Kind of as you'll see, kind of with the squares that are highlighted. If the green space is fine, it's free movement. But if it's red, it means that you've got to dodge through it. So then obviously that means it's another dice roll. So the more you can kind of make unagile teams dodge, kind of the worse it gets for them, because it's obviously all here we go, we get to see one here if I remember rightly. My little guy, see, we'll click there, okay, or I won't. But yeah, it'll, in dodging away, you can see obviously it just means that you've got a dice roll to make. See there, you've got the red one. And obviously when I'm going to go pick the ball up there to try and secure it, and it obviously gives you the little number, I think is that 2 or 3? I can't remember, I can't quite see from here. Looks like a 3. And again, picking the ball up is dependent on your agility as well. So there we go, see, made both. And then I'm kind of weighing it up, because obviously I'm quite exposed there. I'm still stood next to a guy who can just pummel me next turn. But I can at this point sort of pass the ball. It's still a risky strategy. I really wasn't quite sure what I was doing when I got back, but I reasoned if I pass it to that guy, it's going over some agility sort of 3 people, but if I pass it that way, it's going over some agility 2 people. And clearly that made no fucking difference whatsoever. I thought the odds were more in my favour for passing it that way, but clearly not. And that's kind of what it's all about. You've got to sort of try and minimise your risk, sort of make as many moves as you can that don't require you to roll dice, that are just free moves. Try and focus on keeping the ball safe, and just use everything that you can to your advantage. It's so there, obviously, where you can only the move and the hit, signified by the little lightning bolt there, is a blitz, and you can only do one of those per turn. So you can only move and hit once per turn, and it's one of those things you've got to declare it before you do it, if that makes sense. So you can't move somebody's stop and then go, oh right, now I want to hit him, as I've found out a couple of times, or I've forgotten a couple of times. You have to like follow the whole move through. But yeah, I suppose it makes a lot of sense. It doesn't make any sense in the terms of like American football, because they're knocking 10 ton of shit out of each other on pretty much every given occasion. But it makes sense for a board game. If everybody could blitz, it would just, what's the point? It would just get messy. So that makes plenty of sense. Goblins, they're the bane of my existence, goblins. As you can see by those dice, the dice rolled, skills that the players have affect those rolls. So with him there, he got hit with the little explosion with the exclamation mark in it. Ordinarily that would knock somebody on their arse, but the goblins have it, and other characters will have it as we play, have the dodge ability, and if they it's basically, if you have dodge, then you're just pushed back because you're quite agile with it. The only thing that will knock anyone off their feet, as was in that last block there, which is just the plain explosion. And obviously that one is the one that you don't want, the skull. It basically means the other guys, it gives you that random factor, the other guys sort of got the better of you. It's good obviously in a way, because you can, your best laid plans of rats and men, you can still balls up. You've got all the dice in your favour. You've got a 2 dice block, bang, double skulls, tough shit. You know, you're going down. That's how it works. But they're clearly. It seems to be what orcs do. They just kind of pocket up and just kind of make little rolling kind of mauls down the pitch and just aim to just block you as much as possible, kick the shit out of you. I think I might have played like one game as an orc team, and they didn't really suit me. But it works once you know what every team is kind of somewhat good at. You can try and counter it as best you can. Obviously, as they've got it, they kind of match up quite well. Skaven and orcs, it works out quite well for me anyway, because I've got the pace. Certainly, if you've like knocked them all on their arse when they have to stand up, I'm pretty sure that costs you, or used to anyway. I'm sure it still does. Costs you 3 squares of movement just to stand up. So like it's obviously means that knocking over isn't just it's a nothing. So because they're quite slow anyway, if you can somehow sort of keep them pushed back and or knocked over, it means you can really, really keep them at more than arm's length, which is helpful because they don't necessarily hit any harder than Skaven do. I think largely they're strength 3, and on the whole most Skaven are strength 3, apart from the gutter runners, which are the sort of, I don't know, wide receivers. I don't even know. I don't know enough about American football to be making those kind of comparisons. But the runners of the team, and can be catchers as well if you so desire. But yeah, obviously see there, we've got the explosion with a question mark in it, but he hasn't got dodge. So bang, he's dropped him like a bad habit. And sort of I went for a tactical thing here. Obviously I didn't. If you move into a square, fail to pick the ball up, it scatters from your square. So I thought, well, it's sort of the more people you can kind of get with tackle zones on the ball, the harder it is to pick up. So I thought, well, here, if I bump him into that square again, the ball will scatter again. And I was hoping it would scatter in my direction, but it didn't. And by some miracle, the agility won Black Orc, which is slightly stronger, but obviously slightly less dexterous than the regular orc, somehow managed to pick it up. So we've had 1 intercept and one ball retrieve. So they're obviously a hell of a lot more luxe with them today. So, but as I was saying earlier, I'm trying to, obviously the ball ball carrier is highlighted by that orange beam. So I'm just trying to get as many tackle zones onto him as possible. So he's really got to work if he wants to get the ball moving. And it's kind of the basic, it's no different to real sport, I suppose. You're trying to, if the other guy's going to beat you, he's going to have worked for it. Do you know what I mean? Or he's got to have, in this case, got to have rolled a lot of dice and been lucky. In which case, and then you can swear and call them arseholes and cheats as much as you want, because it's the computer rolling the dice, not a person on the other side of the table. But them's the rules, that's the way it goes. But that's just quite why the AI chose with an agility. Basically he would have needed a 6 to do that, and he'd probably needed a 6 and then or a 5 and a 6 to get that, and I've absolutely no idea why that was the best option. I'd have thought it'd have just punched me for the sake of expediency. But there you go, see, so now it's how quickly things can turn around. A quick pick up, just happened to have the right guy in the right place at the right time. Now obviously we need to try and keep him as safe as possible. And that frees up that guy out of the tackle zone, so to me it's a more of an even chance to move him out of the way with a block than it is with a dodge, so that made sense. There's not really much I can do. I always try if I can, if there's people in my sort of backfield, to keep them marked up in case anything goes tits up my end and they make a quick break. So I try to keep that guy covered. The goblin, there's bugger all I can do about, to be honest, because he's smaller. He has a skill that basically, I think it's stunty, I believe it's called, because he's shorter, lower centre of gravity, all that kind of thing. He dodges a lot easier, so he ignores any penalties from like the tackle zones, which makes them incredibly annoying because they they're so hard to stop. I remember in the old system of rules, I had in the board game actually. I'm pretty sure there was never any sort of physical rule against it, but it was ridiculously overpowered because I had as I believe I said in the trailer, Skaven can mutate through the use of warpstone and stuff. Well, that's kind of the lore around it, but regardless, they can pick up some sort of literal physical, extra arms, extra heads, all that kind of shit, claws, things like that. And I had, what was he? Yeah, it was, and obviously they could, because it was on the physical things, like the mutations list. I thought, oh well, surely they can just be stunty then. But because they're like, I think it was like agility 4, so that's like more agile than usual. And it was an absolute, you could not hit him. It was like, trying to grab a greasy pig. Not that I've ever done such a thing, but I imagine it would be tricky. And like distinctly OP. So yeah, I don't think. I'm pretty sure that probably shouldn't have been allowed, but there you go. What can you do? But that's in a way, that's why it's better with something like this, because I in my ute didn't play with a particularly big group of people. There was no one in my friendship group that really wanted to play it, to be honest. So I was kind of a bit limited. But with this, it's like, oh, well, you've always got someone as cripplingly as cripplingly pathetic and sad as it sounds. You've always got the computer to play with. So there are online options for this, but I'm not sure how many people play it these days. I don't know if it's a wildly popular game online, but in a way I'm scared because it means I'll be playing people that actually know what they're doing, and then I'll get beaten and cry. But yes, not getting beaten presently, as you say, running for an easy touchdown. Quite why I left it so long and rolled so many dice beforehand, I don't know. But yeah, so let's say we've set up for kickoff, and I think this is why I like kicking off in the first turn, regardless, even if I win the toss. It's the same result on the kickoff table again. So I think that means I've got to re-roll back, because obviously the fans love me. The cheering fans has inspired us. I've lost my tangent. But yeah, so as you can see, top right hand corner, you can see how many turns are left. It's say 16 turns is the game, 8 turns is the half. So quite why you'd think, well, with 2 turns, they're probably not going to make it anyway, but I always thought, well, if you're going to do it, you might as well go balls out, and just go for it. And just try and get a touchdown, because what else have you got to lose? You're probably not going to concede one. It's tricky too. Although, yeah, maybe they're weighing it up with the fact that we are quite quick, so we could still recover the ball if they fumble it or whatever, and make a quick return. So there is that. I don't know. The AI does make some strange decisions sometimes. I'm reliably informed. I went with normal difficulty, as you saw in the trailer, but I did ask sort of a fellow coach, a good friend Sherwin, who plays this also, and he's far more experienced in the actual game itself, not just the virtual version like this. And he just said, as far as he could tell, it just meant that effectively they just cheated on the dice rolls a little bit more. If that makes sense. Like when you I would like to imagine that on normal kind of it averages it out, but the harder you make it, I would imagine you'd notice that the computer makes more like long throws and more like, right, so you needed a 6 for that, okay, and I can imagine my eyes would be rolling that much, they'd be falling out of my head. So I thought normal seemed to be the best option. So kind of all I'm really doing at this point, bam, is there's not much I can do. I can't score. It's going to be too hard for me to sort of winkle the ball back off of them again. So it's just trying to hit them as much as possible. And I don't think they've even got enough move allowance. I think even if the goblin, who's slightly quicker than the orcs, I don't think he'd... Could he make that? It's possible he could make it, I suppose, so... you try and sort of cover yourself for every eventuality, because it's only one turn left each before half time. I can't see much happening between now and then. We're not going to get another score, so he's just standing up the last few and moving on. So he's just pocketing up again, which is, as I say, a sound tactic, but as I say, when you've got is this even their last turn? I'm still, even after this many games, still semi-confused onto whose sort of last turn it's on. I'm never sure quite whether the glowing ball means that you have the ball, or the ball is whose turn it is. I don't know, I don't really pay much attention to it, I have to say. I'm terrible, which is why, I made the disclaimer previously that I am in no way any good at this, nor do I really know what's going on. I'm just kind of making it up as I go along, to be honest. Yeah, so there we go. See, so yeah, this is our final turn, and I can't remember. Do I pussy out? I can't remember. I think I might do. There's no means of battering anybody, I think, pretty much. So I don't think I bother. Do I hit him? Yes, must do. Yeah, see, I'm not going to get any joy there. Looking at the odds, I don't think I'm really going to hit anybody or knock anyone over, because obviously you gain... there we go, yeah. Pussy! Fast forward through the half-time entertainment. But yeah, obviously the more Ds you do, so I think it's passing, intercepting, injuring the opposition, scoring touchdowns, obviously, that kind of thing. You gain SPP, or star player points, and the more you gain, once you've gained enough, it sort of tells you the little brackets as you are behind every, or next to every character's name. Underneath it, it shows you, sweet. I forgot about that. Kick-off table, rolled in 11, bosh. The fans tend to get quite involved. They're quite animated, literally and figuratively. So that's quite good. That's paid out. That's played into our hands. It's you can see by the spinning stars around him over there. He's stunned. So that basically means his turn. All that can happen in his next turn is he can flip over, and then the next. So you effectively lost him for 2 turns as opposed to 1. By just knocking him over. So yeah, so while we're here, line of scrimmages, I've got nothing special, so I've only just got linemen. I skipped out on the storm vermin, or the blitzers, as I believe they've renamed them now, just because they're sort of quite expensive to begin with, and I think money is, I've found certainly in that practice playthrough, that money is sort of better spent elsewhere. So I think, like, if I manage to get a decent enough, and hopefully if I win this tournament, then I should more than likely have enough to buy a couple, and then that's you're in a really strong position then. But to begin with, I think linemen, I think just sort of 6 or 7 of them is more than adequate. And that it really is so noticeable in these first few games that it seems to be the stock first move, or like if a blitz occurs, they always just blitz a gutter runner, and I really don't know why. I don't see the point. They're not doing anything, and it's just, surely you've got a better target than that. I suppose there is the logic on sort of putting them on their arse, because then it means they've got to spend move points to get back up again. I guess that, and they can dodge quite adequately, but. So there is probably logic behind it, but it just gets frustrating. You just think, right, okay, whatever. You can almost call it. It's like first move of any kickoff. They're going to blitz the gutter runner. It's just, standard. But obviously, as we've cracked a little, there's obviously on the line of scrimmage there, we've bashed everybody back. tactically this seemed to make a bit of sense. If I can sort of move these guys now over this way, everyone's either off on their arse or sort of out of position from the orc perspective. So if I can move these guys across, I can knock myself up a what would be the word? Like a little pocket or a little safe zone that I can pass the ball into. Because as I've said before, and probably will continue. I do apologise. I probably will continue to say it as it's kind of a stock mantra, I guess, something to come out with. But it's to try to make them roll as many dice as possible. So as I say, if we sort of go man to man, it's like I say, it's one of the not like football or soccer as lovely Americans would have it. Kind of man to man is not sort of optional, it's kind of mandatory on this, because as I say, it's you're making the guy work. So again, now he's got 2 guys on him, the guy next to him's got 1. I'm trying to remember, yes, so I bashed him sort of again, and the more you sort of bash them towards the sides, the more chance you've got of knocking them clear off the pitch, and then once they're off the pitch, they've gone for this drive. So basically they're then out of the game until the next touchdown in either direction, and then you get them back generally, unless they've then you get them back, as far as I understand it. You're just kind of dazed. But yes, it makes sense. Now I've made this kind of little pocket, or a little gap anyway, to run these bad boys in, as they're sort of they are your receivers generally. As I say, with the higher agility, it means that they catch a little bit easier, but they've got no specific kind of catch skills. Obviously catch is a skill in itself and lets you kind of re-roll the dice individually as and when you need it. It says the skills just kind of duplicate the team re-rolls, but in sort of very specific ways, so it obviously saves you, whoops, you see there, I might as well cover that while I'm here. As you can see, like any sort of clear green square is a square that I can move to with my move allowance. If it's got the dice on it, I think you can move another 2 squares beyond your move allowance. Let's see, fumbled the throw, best laid plans. You can move 2 squares beyond your move allowance, but you've got to, as they say, go for it. So you have to roll it, well, or the game rolls the dice for you. And as long as you get 2 or more, you're fine. So you can only take 2 of these to go for it, so to say. And so basically, on a 1, there you go, screwed. My throw again, he's got the worst luck. He's injury to insult, and obviously the apothecary that I bought. I'm still not entirely sure. I could have sworn in the board game you could use it to re-roll. Not as much as you wanted, but I think you sort of had a go on everything, if I remember. But it seems to just be you can use him once a half. But again, but I suppose in the sense that makes sense if they're kind of working on somebody to kind of make them not dead or make them kind of heal that injury, then they're going to be working on them for a longer length of time. So I suppose that does make sense. But I tend to go with the gamble that basically as long as they're not dead, I tend not to use them, or to kind of save it for a death, if that makes sense. Because if I use it for that, it's like, okay, so you've cured his knee, so he's not got the niggling kind of injury, but then next turn one of my gutter runners dies, you think you've got no kind of comeback, you've got no means of trying to save their little fuzzy butts. So it sort of makes sense. Unless someone dies, I tend not to use it. So I don't know if that's standard practice. I've absolutely no idea, but that's just say having played about 30-40 sort of my practice playthrough went on a little bit longer than I possibly thought it would. So yeah, I played about 30 odd games, and that seemed to be the tactic that paid off. I didn't have anyone die, so if it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So now this is the infamous, well, potentially to the dozen people that have seen it, little bout of goblin ping pong. This is probably this has only helped feed why I hate these arseholes with a passion. just because they seem to be so... Oh, it's so satisfying when you do finally squash them, but it seems to be so difficult to actually put them on their little green backsides. So it's... again, what's that? Like 2 dice blocks and nothing, and you just think, oh, you little turd. But luckily with this dude, the extra dice pays. So he's down and free, and obviously then I've got my most sort of dexterous fielder runner to try and to pick the ball up. I can't remember if I used a reroll this turn, did I? I don't know. Obviously I did do. So then obviously, yeah, the ball scatters, and then obviously it keeps scattering until if it scatters onto a square with a player in it, they're entitled to pick it up, as we saw with the Black Hawk in the first half. But it still counts as a turnover because you ballsed it up. So we've got the ball, but just because it's we're penalised because we haven't got the ball in the way we intended. But yeah, so luckily the guys obviously rolled poorly for his block, so that's good. So that means we've now got a chance to somehow... Oh, see, that's what you need. All those dice. There's like, what, best part of 10 dice. Then we get two explosions in a row. Awesome. So that's him down again. So now we've got to somehow get people out of here, out of this mess of our own creation. If we can get, if we can get all these tackle zones off of the guy with the ball, I think, yep, he's got none at the moment, so then he's free to just move. Whereas before, yep, we could have just dodged him out, but again, it's a dice roll, and again, if he misses, if he fails it, drops the ball, and it kind of puts us back in the shit again. So as it stands, everyone that's sort of free, exert the tackle zone. See, if you put him out there, then obviously the little zone around him, people have either got to dodge around him, which obviously works well with orcs because they've got the reduced move allowance, so that works in your favour. Obviously with somebody quicker, if you've got elves or you've got people that can, you can jump later on. If you've got the jump skill, you can just vault over people like they're nothing, so it's again, it's all about knowing your opponent as best you can. And trying to tip the odds in your favour. So we've got our ball carrier up there. He's relatively safe as far as I can tell. There's no one that can reach him. But again, move him up there. So there's some. Even if anyone can, they're probably going to be rolling and let me. I'll have to choose the dice. So hopefully that's again you're kind of still tipping it even further in your favour. So again, that's a shame because but he's badly hurt, but there's no long-term effect. So badly hurt isn't that bad really. It means he misses the rest of this game, but he'll be available for the next one. But sadly, the thrower who was hurt with the niggling injury, he's going to miss the next one because it was a slightly more serious one. So again, for something like that, it's like it's near the end of the game. Something worse might happen, so it just seems to make more sense to just it's okay, he'll be fine next game. So I've only got to survive another 4 turns? No, 3 turns, 4 turns, which I still don't know, and I'll be fine. So to me that seemed a bit of a no-brainer. So yeah, so now it's just a case of trying as best we can to support our ball carrying friend. Sadly, say we're a man down now, but hopefully those numbers will pay, or the numbers we have left will pay off our apothecarian gamble. So yeah, I kind of had intended at first to sort of clip the AI. Sort of tended to have some various brain farts where it would just kind of sit there and be like, and just sort of consider for like the longest time what it was going to be doing. And I thought, oh well, okay, well in that case I'll sort of compress those. I'll fast forward it or whatever. But it seems to have been fairly swift in this one, and it's me that seems to have taken my time. But again, see, that was a bit of a gamble. I kind of clicked that one without without truly thinking through the consequences of that. But I'm quite glad it paid off. A couple of dodges, always worthwhile. And now where I've knocked that guy, it means that if any kind of hit on this fella pushes him off the pitch, so then that's him gone for this drive, so that evens it up. Obviously, if that guy hadn't been on the floor, that guy, I think it's, yeah, you have to go to a vacant square. Like, I couldn't just force him off the field if there was a square for him to go to. That makes sense, because it was filled by that guy on his arse. That worked out a treat. So that's, again, as I say, that's helped even the odds. So as we're coming into the closing stages, really, I'm still not sure. I think they've still got like about 3 people down in my end towards my end zone, and I really don't understand why. Like about 2-3 turns ago, they didn't start pulling them back, because you would have thought that would be a wise move. Like, if it looks like they're going to score, like, yeah, you might not do anything with them, but you're kind of like, at least make an effort. It seems to be very like those Premier League prima donnas that everyone seems to moan about on a regular basis. It's just like, come on, like, put some, well, footballers in general, I suppose it goes for sometimes, of like, come on, put some fucking effort in. Seriously, at least look like you're trying. And they're all just sort of stood down the end, sort of having a chinwag. So I'd be, if I was an Orc fan, I would be demanding my season ticket money back. I'd be livid at this point. Yeah, so it's all they can do to, say, try and bring some, put some tackle zones on people, and say, shoulder barge him, bring him across. But it's hopefully too little too late. As it's, well, I say that to try to bring some kind of sort of tension to the proceedings, but I do actually know what happened, so it's I'm not quite sure how good a job I'm doing in that sense, trying to help you second guess. But yeah, if at all possible, I know it's in a way it's a little bit rude, because you're sort of picking and choosing who scores, but where you're in the position to do so, like here, as I say, that guy that I've given the ball to was the one that scored in the first half, so if he bags another touchdown, he's then got 6 star player points, which means he then levels up effectively, so he can then roll for new skills and abilities and all that kind of thing. So it makes sense, like, rather than have 2 people score and get 3 each, get one and get him levelled up, then you've got, you've got a more valuable asset. It makes sense to me anyway. So where possible, try and get the points to the people that would need them most. You're in charge, so I can't see people are going to get up, miniatures, or in this case, computer game characters are going to get pissed off that they did all the work, and then they just literally just handed the ball to somebody else to run in. It's good as you can kind of RP like a very strong work ethic. It's all for the team. Everyone's pulling in the same direction. But yeah, I think we are pretty much wrapping it up now. I'm running out of yeah, where is it? So yeah, so we've got 2 re-rolls left. It's like, and 2 turns. You think, well, screw it, I could re-roll something like that. But while we're there, while this guy's now free, you can, once you prioritise sort of the main tasks, obviously you can then, and once they've all come off, you can, if you've got re-rolls left, you can use them for this kind of thing. So obviously that makes reposition him as like a little wall of rat. So kind of, not that I really don't think they can catch us at this point. See again, like, where's he going? Why? How is, what does that gain you? I don't understand. But regardless, so he's as close as he could get, but as I say, as he could get to us, but there's not much he can do as it stands. Obviously that guy falling over helped, so that kind of cuts down the rest of their turn, but they haven't really got all that many people left if you look at it. They're thin on the ground, especially because they've got 3 of them just fucking scratching their arses down the other end of the field. Ah, yeah, seeing that with the explosion, but with the skull, that is that is both people down. So obviously that's a turnover, but at least you knock the other guy over. But it's both down unless you've got block. So if you've both got block, fine, it's a block, no turnover, but nothing happens. But if in that case, like where he had block and I didn't, it would have been a turnover, and I would have gone down and he wouldn't. I hope that makes some sort of sense. And that's pretty much about it for the dice, really. Is the attacker down, both down, explosion, the one without the dodge with the exclamation mark, and push, but there, that's it. So that's kind of hopefully blocking covered. I hope now it kind of makes sense, and even if it doesn't, I suppose you can just kind of tune it out and just watch people hitting each other. I suppose that sort of works on it works on several levels. So we are in the penultimate turn. He said adding the tea. So yeah, again, he seems to be persisting in dodging with Black Hawks, and that's like, I really don't see the logic in that. Said it didn't pay off in the first half, didn't pay off. It's not paid off then, like for 2 turns. So them's the breaks, love. Stroll in, and they're obviously the animation there does. It kind of pisses me off because I'm pretty sure every Skaven player has exactly the same animation, and it just makes us look like doofuses, which rankles me slightly. But then there you go. I guess I take it a little bit too taking it slightly too seriously. It's all about the RP. I'd be livid as a coach. I'd be like, come on, take it a little bit more seriously, chaps. Watch where the ball goes. So yeah, so literally all I'm going to do is kick off, and then that's my. See, I've obviously got a different result on the kickoff table, where say perfect defence. I can now, judging by what he's done, can reorganise my guys, but it's like at this with like no turns to go, like what's the point? I think kind of part of the logic was like, well, if you move, if there's less people to hit, there's less chance people are going to die. I guess maybe that was sort of my logic there. I don't know. I don't think that formation really makes the blindest bit of difference, but the OCD is real. They've got to it's got to be symmetrical both sides. So yeah, obviously with 1 turn left, orcs being orcs, they've got to pocket up. God bless the AI. Block up, pocket up and hit people, obviously. So yeah, I don't think there's a hell of a lot more left in the game. I can't quite remember how their turn ended, but yes, there you go. See, if I'd have used Mick Apothecary, I couldn't have used him for that. So he's gone from dead to just missing half a turn. And you think, in a sense, I think the Apothecary's 50 grand and a lineman's 50 grand, so he's paid for himself. Just with one roll of the dice. Obviously it's not foolproof. I think Apothecary is sometimes like the result stands and like they're still dead. But I'd rather have the opportunity to keep my team alive. So yeah, so then with regards to your fan factor, which is obviously how popular you are. Obviously you don't start off wildly popular, but that grows by how well you play, how much you win. You then roll a dice, and then there's a chart that's compared against that. Thankfully you don't have to see when you're playing this game. You haven't got to do it all manually to calculate your winnings. And there we go, we've got 60 grand off the back of that. So it's lucky, even if somebody had died, I've got the money to replace it, which isn't always the case with Skaven. But obviously, as we've said, now there's a chance to level up. Now I don't know how you use that. Fits. I would probably pronounce that fitties, just because it's like, because why not? And yeah, exactly. I don't think I've ever rolled. If you obviously it shows you the roll. It shows you on the little chart there the skill categories that you are allowed to take. With Skaven, if you get a double, you're allowed. Well, with anyone, if you get a double, you're allowed any skill from any chart because it's sort of rare occurrence, or you're allowed a mutation on a double. for Skaven, but obviously if you get a 12, I think it's like, which is it? Is it 10, 11 and 12, I think, if you roll, you get movement, strength or agility increases. I think you might get armour increases as well, I can't remember. Because I've never had a strength increase, and the prime sort of thing of them is trying to keep them on their feet as much as possible. That made sense to me, to increase his strength. So there we go, that's match 1 done and in the bank. Sadly we've got our thrower out, so I may well debate on purchasing a replacement for him, especially seeing as next game Ragnarite Pythons we've got, it's a Norse team, and again they're similar in a sense to Orcs, in that they're sort of like a human team, but they again heavy hitters, so we'll have to see how we do versus them. But say I may well invest in another player. But in the meantime, there's the lads hanging out in the locker room, enjoying themselves. I hope you've similarly enjoyed episode 1, and maybe see you for game 2.